Hey friends, it's Sarah from She's Crafty and She Knows It, and today I'm going to show you how to hand knit a Peep bunny. So let's go ahead and get started. I have all my supplies laid out right here. Like always, I will link all the supplies I'm using in the description below this video. So if you're looking for the supplies, check the description below this video. But I'm going to be using this fluffy chenille yarn by Loops and Threads. I have some safety eyes. This is what we're going to be using to put eyes and a nose on the Peep bunny. I have some white thread, kind of a chunky plastic needle with a big eye that we're going to use with this thread. Scissors, of course. I have some cute little spring ribbon that we're going to be tying around the neck of the bunny, and then polyfill to stuff it. So I'm going to go ahead and move everything off the table so that we can get going. Okay, so real quick before we actually get started, I kind of want to show you some different yarn options. Normally in the past when I've been doing hand knitting tutorials, I've been using this Blanket Big yarn by Bernat. So just so you can kind of see what it looks like, I have it here versus this one that I actually bought, this time this fluffy chenille. So you can kind of see the difference. They're both a chunky yarn. One is just a lot furrier than the other. So I actually went to Michael's to get this yarn to make some peeps, and I found this. I hadn't seen it before. I really like how fuzzy it is. Now my disclaimer is I think the Peep turns out cuter with this yarn, but it is a little bit harder to see what you're doing because it's so fluffy that when you have a loop, let me kind of show you. When you have a loop with this yarn, it's kind of hard to see compared to if I make a loop with this one, you can really kind of see the opening. Versus this, it's so fuzzy. Hopefully you can tell. So this loop is easy to kind of see. There's a clear hole. With this one, not so much. So it does make it a little bit more complicated to use this one. Let me move them over. I've made a Peep using both kinds. I didn't have a bright fun color, but this is the Bernat Blanket Big. So it's this yarn. So you can kind of see how it looks. It really has a cute kind of braided, the typical knit look. It does kind of have some holes where you can see through and see the polyfill. I don't know how much it's going to show up on camera, but it does leave bigger holes where you can kind of see the stuffing if you kind of play with it. So still really cute if you want to use that. And then I have one that I already made with this fluffy chenille, which is just so fluffy and soft. This yarn is way softer, especially for a stuffed animal kind of feel. Now it's so fluffy that his eyes and his nose kind of can get hidden in there. If you're not careful, you kind of have to not attach them too tight. Overall, I think this one is much cuter personally. But if you're afraid it's gonna be too fluffy and hard to do, you can do the Bernat Blanket Big yarn. I just wanted you to see the difference. I contemplated doing the tutorial with this yarn so it would be easier to see what I'm doing. But I think most of you are going to want to use this yarn, and so I want to show you what it's like actually using the yarn that I think is best for this, if that makes sense. So I just kind of wanted to explain that. This is the yarn we're going to be using for this tutorial. I have a purple one too that I've already made. They're so cute. They're so chunky and soft. I just think you're really going to like using this yarn. So I'm going to move those to the side. Okay, so I have my yarn right here. I'm going to kind of pull a good bit out. Now, if you're not used to doing hand knitting stuff, I recommend you really in the beginning stick your hand in the middle of the skein and pull out a big chunk. That's where all of this came from, is the middle. This allows you to kind of put your skein off to the side and just pull yarn from the center rather than pulling. If you pull it from the outside and just find wherever the piece is wrapped around, your skein's gonna be spinning the whole time you're knitting and kind of rolling all over the place. This lets the skein just sit there on the table and you can kind of pull some out and it's not rolling onto the floor and all over the place. Okay, so that's just a little tip. Take it for what it's worth. Of course, you don't have to do it that way. I just find it easiest to do it that way. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with about 12 inches. So leave kind of a little tail like this. And you're gonna put your fingers right here. You're gonna wrap the yarn around 3 fingers. We're just gonna make a slip knot. So wrap it around and turn it like this. And then you're gonna kind of tuck this yarn right here underneath like this and pull it up. It's going to kind of make a loop. That's how you make a slip knot. I'm going to do it one more time just in case you're new to this. So have your 12-inch 1-foot tail, wrap the yarn around 3 fingers, kind of turn your hand like this, and you're going to tuck the yarn underneath and make a little loop. You're making a slip knot. You can kind of finagle it, kind of pull on the ends to get it smaller. You want it to be about the width of 2 fingers. So for this whole thing, we're going to do loops that are about 2 fingers big. 3 fingers leaves a pretty big loop with gaps that maybe the polyfill could come through. 1 finger is too small to work with. So I recommend doing about 2 fingers. Obviously, if you're a kiddo and you're watching this and you're trying it and you have tiny little hands, maybe 3 fingers for you. Okay, so now what we're gonna do now is do a chain stitch. So we want 8 loops all together on our chain stitch. So we have one. So we're going to take the yarn and you're going to kind of stick your fingers through this loop. I told you it's hard to see the circle with this yarn, hard to see the opening. Stick your fingers through the hole and pull the yarn through and you're going to make a second loop. Okay, so now we have two. So I have a hole right here. Stick your fingers through, pull to make another loop. That's 3. Stick your fingers through, pull it through. That's 4. Keep going. 5, 6, 7. Now, if I'm going too fast or it really is too hard to see what I'm doing because this yarn is so fluffy, I recommend going back to one of my other tutorials. I have some tutorials. I have one on how to hand knit a circle, like a round pillow, and I have one on how to hand knit a pumpkin. Both of them are using the same idea as this. So you can kind of get started by watching those. They're under my playlist that I think is called hand knitting, or maybe it's just knitting. So go back if you're new to knitting and it's confusing because this yarn's so fluffy. Check out one of those videos, either how to hand knit a pumpkin or how to hand knit a round pillow. Okay, so I have my 8 loops. Like I said, they're hard to see. I can still see kind of the scallop. So I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can see them. So if you're used to knitting, it's going to be easy to kind of see the scallop edge. Otherwise, you kind of have to feel for it. Okay, so I have my last loop. I have 8. You're going to take this tail right here. You're going to stick it through the last loop, and we're going to kind of make a circle. If this is just way too hard to see and I need to go back and do a tutorial with the other yarn, I can do that and show you. So it makes a circle. I know this is the worst part. If you can make it through this, then you can go on. This is the worst part because of how hard it is to see with this yarn, but I think it's worth it because it's so cute. So I have my tail pulled through. We're going to leave it off to the side. This over here, connected to the skein, is the working yarn. So tail has an end right here. The working yarn is all this. We're not going to be using the tail for a long time, so leave it to the side. We're going to be using the working yarn, and we're going to go around this circle, putting loops on here. So I can see the first little hump, and I can feel that there's a hole. So I know that's one of the loops. You don't want to skip any, so make sure you're finding the one closest to where this tail is coming through. Okay, so I found a loop. You're going to stick your finger through and pull the yarn up. And at the end of going around the circle, we need to have 8 loops. Okay, so there's one. I can tell I went through here, so a lot of this is feel on here. So I went through there. I'm looking for the next one. Okay, I can see it's right here. I can kind of feel it more than I can see it, honestly. Okay, so 2. Now, I'm not every time sticking 2 fingers in to make sure 2 fingers wide. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Okay, so if you find a loop with your finger, just make sure it's not the one you already did because you're really having to feel for it. So it's not that one. I'm going to go on. Okay, I can feel this is the 3rd one. Y'all, I contemplated so much if it was worth even using this yarn for the video, but I really want you to see that it's doable. Here, I can feel the 4th one. It's doable, and it's just so much cuter to me than the other one that I really wanted you to be able to see that you can do it and have it turn out really cute. We're on 5. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7. And 8. Okay, so we're gonna make sure, double check. It kind of makes a little flower design. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you wanna make sure you have 8 loops. If you don't, go ahead and pull this and undo these loops and try again. Start back with a chain stitch, but it's really important that you have 8 loops right here. All we're gonna do now is keep going around the circle. So it's easier to see now because now you kind of have this flower design. Now we're gonna do 10 more rows. This was our first row. We're gonna do 10 more rows going up to kind of make a cylinder for the bunny's body. And so we're not going to be using this. Make sure you're using the working yarn. You want to keep count of how many rows you're doing. So now you can use, there's these little stitch markers that you can kind of put on a loop to remember where you started. I just honestly count in my head. So I know that this is row 1. So now we're starting row 2, loop 1. So I just count. It's up to you if you want to mark it. So row 2, and I just count row 2. And then I go around. Okay, that was loop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now we've done 2 rows. You can see it's kind of just getting a bigger flower. We're going to go around again. The tail is kind of marking where we started for now. This is row 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, that was row 3. Now, if we keep kind of going like this and letting it go out like a flower, it's going to get bigger and bigger gaps in between the loops and the stuffing might show. So about at this point is where I kind of fold it up and go around it that way. So I kind of fold it so it's less of a flower and more kind of like a bowl, and now I go around it this way. So the tail is kind of down, and we're going to start row 4. 4, this is 4, 1. And that way you can have less of a gap because now it's kind of next to each other. You can have less of a gap between the loops instead of it getting really far apart like this. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we have row 4. Now we're going to keep going. And so it's kind of, you can kind of see, it's kind of making like a little bowl shape. We're going to keep going around. That was row 4 and do row 5, and we're going to go all the way until we're at 11. So we want to have 11 rows all together. So just keep going. Now once you get to this point, it really is easy to see the loops. It really is just the beginning with the chain stitch that's the hardest. These loops are pretty obvious. Okay, we're about to start row 9, so just so you can see how it's coming along. You can see that it's really taking shape. Kind of looks like a weird bowl or a hat or something. Okay, we're gonna get started on row 9. It's kind of standing up on its own. You can lay it down if you'd rather do it like this. If it's easy for you to see, go like, this is number 1 for row 9. So you could go 1, 2, 3, and then kind of flip it over. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever's easiest for you. Now we're starting row 10. Okay, now this is 11. So of course you could do it taller and make an even bigger, taller peep. We're still gonna add the ears on. Mine altogether are about 14 inches once they're completely done and stuffed and everything. So up to you how long you wanna go. If you go too long and skinny, to me, it makes it a shape that's not really a peep shape, but it's up to you. So now we're gonna lay it out. Okay, we want it where there's 4 loops. I'm gonna try and show you this. It's kind of confusing a little bit in the beginning. So it's gonna be split right here and go into ears. So you want 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on one side. Hopefully you can see that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kind of makes a little square. And then on the other side, same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 loops on this side. So you're kind of laying it down in a way where it's split. 4 loops on this side, 4 loops on this side. I have the last loop I did right here with the working yarn. I really want to make this as easy to understand for you guys. Okay, so I have my 4 loops. We're just going to be working on these 4 loops and not the ones on the left right now. So with these 4, we're going to go ahead and knit the ear, and we're going to do 4 rows kind of going up just using these 4 loops. So I have my working yarn, and we're going to start with this top right one. So we're going to use the working yarn. It's coming from the loop behind it. We're going to pull it through. This is row 1. So 1, and move the yarn kind of to that side so I can see better. Okay, so this is stitch 1, 2. We did 1, 2. Instead of going around here, we need to go to the back of this ear. So I'm going to flip it over so it's easier to see. So we did 1, 2 right here. Flip it over. We need to finish over on this side, and we're going to keep flipping it. So we're not doing this side right now. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the first row. So that's 1 row on this ear. We're going to flip it over so we can see. We're starting row 2. Go 1, 2, flip it over, 3, 4. Okay, again, starting row 3, 1, 2, flip it over, 3, 4. Now you don't want these loops to be too huge because you want the ear to not be ginormous. So don't accidentally make them bigger. You can still do the 2 fingers, just it's easy to kind of pull a lot through and make it a little crazy. So still the same size we've been doing, if not a tiny bit smaller. Definitely not bigger. Oh, I just pulled that loop out on accident. Okay. 1, this is the last one. It's row 4. 2, flip it over. 3, 4. Okay, so hopefully you can see how we only were knitting on these. We didn't do anything with this. You can kind of see it taking shape already. I'm going to kind of pull it down. So now we still have 4 loops over here that are kind of open in the middle. It's kind of made a little tunnel, and then this is just stopped right here. Okay, we're going to take this and we're going to cut it about a foot long. Let me get my scissors. A foot, if not like 18 inches. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and now you don't want to stick it back where it's coming out. So hopefully you can tell if this is still the working yarn, it's coming out this front left loop right here. So I want to flip it around, and just like we're going back around, instead of making loops, we're just going to stick this little tail through each loop, starting with the one after where it's coming out. You can't start with the one where the yarn's coming through. Hopefully that makes sense. So the working yarn's coming from this back loop. So we're going to start by putting it through the next one. Same order we would do if we were knitting. You don't want to pull too hard because it'll undo this back loop. So don't pull hard yet. We're going to pull hard at the end. So through the first loop, through the second, we're just binding it off. Through the third, now we're going to go through the last loop, and then you can pull it tight. That's what kind of seals everything off. Okay, you're going to pull it real tight. Now, I say real tight. This does just have like a string inside. It's kind of the way it's sewn. So don't like yank it like crazy, but pull it tight enough that you can tell it's kind of all cinched together. We're going to tie a knot. I love that this yarn is so fluffy because it hides everything. You can't even see the knots. So tie a knot at the top of the ear, and then you're just going to find a hole near the top. It's pretty easy, and just stick the extra in there. If you need to stick your hand up through the inside to pull it, you can do that. Pull it through. Okay, so now we have one ear. You can see it taking shape. Now we still have these 4 loops. I'm going to kind of show you. We have 2 in the back, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have no working yarn. So we're just going to make our own loops. I'm going to pull out a good bit. Okay, so you're going to take about 12 inches and you're going to make a loop just like this. So we have right here a tail, a new tail that we've made, a loop, and then working yarn. You don't need to tie a knot or do a slip knot or anything, just like this. You're going to take this front little ear right here, the front right one. You're going to go from behind and you're going to stick the loop through. So you're basically making a new little knit stitch right there. Okay, we're going to tuck this tails and it kind of should be inside the ear. So you don't need the tail, but we do need the working yarn. So I'm going to tuck that tail in there for now. Okay, so now we have our new loop. You want it to be the same side we've been doing, so 2 fingers, and you're going to go around 4 times, just like we've been doing. We're going to go 4 rows for the ear. So this is starting row 1. That's already loop 1, so we're going to go to loop 2. We're going to flip it over, loop 3, loop 4. Like I said, try not to make these loops crazy big. It's really easy doing the ears for some reason to me to make the loops bigger than you've been doing, so keep them the same. So that's row 1. Flip it over, row 2. Flip it over. Okay, we're going to start row 3. I'll tell you, these loops on the ear just want to be huge for me. I don't know what I'm doing and how that happens, but they always just want to be ginormous. Okay, last one. It's kind of obvious where the last one is because they're going to match in height, so it won't be too confusing. Okay, it's my last one right here. Okay, now you're going to go ahead, like last time, you're going to cut some off. I always cut extra just in case I want it to stitch something up, or I don't know. I just always cut a little bit extra. I'd rather have extra inside in case something comes unraveled than not enough. So now it's coming out of this back right loop. So we're going to take this tail end and go through the front. Remember, we're not pulling hard yet because you don't want to pull out that back loop. This is the third one, and then through the last one. And you're going to cinch it. You're going to pull it real tight. It makes that ear. Kind of yank it so it cinches it tight. Tie a knot. Now, I meant to tell us earlier. Let me leave that there for 1 second. So a lot of the videos that I've seen have you start with like 12 or 14 stitches on the chain stitch, and then you have to decrease them at a certain point before you get to the head and then to the ears, and it just seemed overly complicated to me. So we're doing it this way because when you do the ribbon around the neck, it already kind of cinches the neck anyway, so I don't really think that there's any reason to make it overly complicated. So we're just going to do 8 stitches. The chain stitch is 8 stitches. That's how many you need for the ears. So it's just easier, in my opinion, to do it 8 stitches wide the whole time. So if you see other ones where they cinch it in, they start with like 14, cinch it down. That's up to you. I just think it's easier to keep it the same the whole time and not have to stop and combine stitches and stuff. It gets a little complicated, especially if you're new to hand knitting. So I meant to explain why I'm doing it this way versus some of the other ways you might see. Okay, I'm going to tuck this end in, so find a hole near the top like last time. You might have to stick your hand up inside. This is the softest yarn. I'm thinking I really want to actually make a blanket with it, or a pillow at least. It's so soft. Okay, so we have it all like that. Now, at the very top, because we split it into 2 ears, it kind of makes this big hole, which we don't want. And so, okay, on the inside, you'll have, I'm going to go ahead and pull them both out. You'll have one, which was the tail for this last ear, and then one that was the yarn where you added that loop. Remember how we kind of created a loop out of nowhere with just the working yarn? We created a loop with a tail on it when we started the second ear. We're going to use those 2 ends. So it's not the end from the other ear, but it's these 2 ends coming out of the last ear that we did. And we're going to kind of just loop. I just take one from one side and kind of loop it over the hole like this, and then I take one and go from the other direction, and you're just kind of stitching it up, and I go all the way across. One more time. And there's really no right or wrong way to do this. You're not going to mess it up. Okay, so I kind of am going to get both of them over, just kind of weave them where both ends are on the same side. I'm going to tie a knot and tuck it in. Like I said, this yarn specifically is so fuzzy, nobody would ever be able to see the knot. So I'm going to tie a knot, tuck my ends to the inside. This just closes that top hole so that nobody can see. There's no stuffing kind of peeking through or anything like that. Okay, now because the knot is on this side, like I said, you can't see it. I mean, you can kind of touch it if you want to feel it. I'm going to flip it over, and the other side is going to be the front since that knot's back there. You can see now that the top is completely shut. There's no huge gaping hole anymore, so we've closed it off. This is the front. I'm going to go ahead and stuff it a little bit. So I have my polyfill. The ears honestly don't need a ton. There's so much yarn already in there, so because they're pretty small, but I do put just a tiny bit up in the ears. Now I leave my ends. You remember those, like the ends we just tucked in? I leave those in there like that, the extra yarn. It doesn't, you can't feel it. It doesn't affect anything. I don't cut the ends off super short. Now, if you put a huge ball of stuffing in one spot, it will kind of, you know, you might be able to see some tiny gaps in your stitching. So you don't want to overstuff it. Just like anything you knit, if you're knitting any kind of stuffed animal and you overstuff it, it's going to really stretch out the knitting and make gaps that you maybe wouldn't see if you didn't overstuff it. So when it comes to this, less is more, in my opinion. And like I said, if you're doing big loops with 3 fingers, you're more likely to have that problem. So try really hard not to do huge loops. Okay, that seems pretty good. We're going to do like this, maybe a tiny bit more. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the eyes on. Let me show you. These are just, they're called safety eyes, and they're for doing kind of crocheted stuffed animals or knitted. And so I'm going to be using this biggest size, 3 of these, 2 for the eyes, 1 for the nose. And they have these little cap things that go on the back. So let me kind of show you. Essentially, they work like this, where they're called safety eyes because they are stuck in there versus like if you just put it in there, it'd fall right out. So it has this front, and then on the back side, there's a little plastic washer, that goes on. It's kind of like a screw. There's kind of like ridges. So the plastic washer goes over the ridges. You can do it really tight where you push the washer all the way in, or you can do it looser where it's just on one. Because this yarn is so fluffy, if you do it all the way, push the washer really far in, it's gonna smush it so deep in the yarn, you're not gonna be able to see them. So on the ones I showed you, let me grab it real quick. This is with it on the, the very first little ridge. So they're already kind of smushed in there because this yarn is so fuzzy. So definitely don't squeeze them all the way. You want to just squeeze the plastic washer until you feel it click one time and then stop. If for some reason it goes tighter, you can kind of stick your hand in there and undo it. It's kind of hard, but you can pop them off if it ends up being somewhere you don't like it or something. So I kind of place where I think I want it, kind of like this. With the peeps, they're pretty close together. The eyes and the nose is not too much lower, so I try to do it kind of similar like that. Okay, we're gonna stick our hand up inside. So I haven't closed off the bottom yet. So I have my little plastic washer. I'm gonna stick my hand up inside. You could do it before you stuff it if you want to. I just kind of like to see it take shape a little bit better so I can figure out exactly where I want it. So I'm pushing with both hands and you just want to feel it click like one time. Okay, and the nose about right there. Okay, so there we go. We got it like that. I'm gonna move my little eyes off to the side. Okay, and so now that we're done with all that, we can go ahead and bind up the bottom. If you think you have it stuffed good the way you want it, honestly, I'm gonna add a tiny bit of stuffing to the bottom. I keep on being unsure if I want it to be a little chunkier at the bottom. Okay, so we have our bottom. So what we're gonna do, it's kind of a little circle. If you made the pumpkin or the round pillow, it's the same kind of idea. So you can tell where it's coming through. I can see where it's coming through. So we're gonna continue going the same direction and we're gonna find the loops. So you do not have to hit every single loop. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the idea is that you're taking this tail and you're putting it through a loop and you're kind of pulling it. You're pulling it as you go through the next loop. This is just cinching the bottom closed. So as you go, kind of push the yarn down and kind of cinch it each one. If you wait to the end and you go around the circle, it's hard to cinch it all at one time. So I kind of try to tighten it as I go after each little loop. Kind of slide it down. You can see it's already getting way smaller. I don't count how many loops I go through. You don't have to hit every single one. The idea is that you just want it to be closed. You want to close the hole. So I think this probably will do it. And do one more. And so I told you that with this yarn, there really is a pro and con. The con is that it's harder to see what you're doing in the beginning. The pro is that all the knots, it's so fluffy that things get lost where you can't see the knot. So even if it's not perfect, you can't see that there's a hole at all. Everything's so fluffy, it kind of covers a lot of your possible mistakes. Okay, so now it's cinched tight, really good. There's no hole. We're gonna tie a knot. Of course, you want the knot to be as close to this little bottom of the peep as you can. Okay, and then we're just gonna tuck it inside. Just like that. Okay, so now here he is without any ribbon. We're gonna take our cute little ribbon. I'm gonna go ahead and cut about a yard of this, so 3 feet. I know it sounds like a lot, but I kind of like to leave a cute little bow on the front, and then by the time you tie it around him, so, okay. So we're gonna do it, you can decide whatever placement you want. I do it pretty close to where his little nose is, like this. I'm gonna turn it upside down for a second. I somehow do a better bow if it's upside down, which I know makes no sense. Okay, I'm just gonna cut the little ends. Okay, so now it's super cute the way it is. I kind of want to show you, let's see if, so this right here is just if we finish it like this, the way it does it, since we did kind of a straight cylinder and split it off, it kind of has a big head that goes like this, kind of like a triangle or pyramid shape. versus the Peep really kind of has a head and then the ears go out, and it's kind of like a curve right here. So all I did was use some thread to kind of cinch this in. It's super easy. So like I said, if you're a kid and you're watching this, something super easy you can do. So this is not complicated. It's not really like sewing. Move this one to the side. So I have my thread. If you don't have, I will link this kind of thread, but you could use embroidery floss, sewing thread, if you have like a spool of thread for sewing, fishing line. This yarn is so fuzzy that it doesn't have to be white or clear because you're not going to be able to see it. So you're just going to kind of stick it through the eye of this big plastic needle. Of course, if you are a kid and you're watching this, use a plastic needle, not a really sharp, not one of your mom's sewing needles or anything. I'll link some plastic needles like this. I like these. It's helpful that they're so thick because you can feel it when you're going through the center of the head. Okay, so on the side of the ear, you can kind of see, it's kind of hard to tell, but it makes this braided pattern. So there's like one braid going down. I'm going to do it on each side of this braid. And then you want to go about the top, above the eyes, below right where the ears are starting. So you don't want to do it up here and attach the ears together on accident. And you don't want to do it in the middle of his eyes. You want to do it right where the ears, the base of the ears. Okay, so you're kind of eyeballing it. I'm going to go on the right side and go, you're trying to poke it all the way through to the other side in the same spot. So you kind of just got to feel for it. You can kind of stick your hand through the loops and get it. Okay, so I'm going all the way through, and then you want to go back on the other side of kind of that braided design, and we're going to go, I know I'm kind of flipping them all around. We're going to go all the way back through to the other side. Okay, so all we've done is done one piece of thread is going all the way through. You can see it both sides here. It's going all the way through, and it's created, if I can grab it, I kind of already pulled it tight. Here we go. It's created a loop on this side. So what we're going to do now is pull it. I'm going to go ahead and cut this extra. So you're going to go ahead and just like we're going to tie a normal knot, you're going to kind of pull it. But when you're doing it, you're going to pull it to the front so you can kind of see how it's looking. So that's pretty cute. See? Hopefully you can see the difference. So if I pull it loose, that's kind of with it tight. And then if I undo it, pull it loose again, it just kind of has a big flat triangle shaped head. So I think this adds a lot of the Peep shape in my opinion. And it's super easy to do. So, okay, go ahead and kind of pull it like this. And now we're just going to tie a knot. I'm going to go ahead and do 2 or 3 knots just so it's really sturdy. And then we're just going to cut it off, those extras, as close to the knot as you can get it. Like I said, it doesn't have to be super close because this yarn hides everything. It's so fluffy. And there you can see it kind of gave him a better little Peep shape with his head and everything and his little ears going off. Okay, friends, so that's the quick and easy way to make a super cute Peep bunny. So just so you know, that bunny took me about 30 minutes to make, and that was with me going slow and showing every single step and explaining things in detail. Once you have it down and you've made one before and you know what you're doing, they take about 15 to 20 minutes to make for each one. So they're very fast. It is not a long project by any means. Like I said, I will link all the supplies I used in the description below this video. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and make sure you subscribe for more videos. Bye!
She's crafty and she knows it. She's crafty and she knows it. She's crafty and she knows. She's crafty and she knows.